Om Vishwam Darpana Drishyamana Nagari Tulyan Nijantargatam Pashyannatmani Mayaya Bahirivodbhutai Yatha Nidraya Yasakshat Kurute Prabodha Samaye Svatmanamevadvayam Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namahidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Bijasyantarivangkuro Jagadidam Prāṅnirvikalpam punaha Maya kalpita deshakal kalana Vaichitra chitri kritam Maya viva vijrumbhayatya vimaha yogi vayasvechaya Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namahidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namahidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryan Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Om The fifth mantra. Yatra suktah na kanchana kamam kamayate na kanchana swapnam pashyati tat sushuptam sushuptasthanaha ekibhutaha prajnanaganaha eva anandamayo hi anandabhuk chetomukha pragnyah trutiyah padah. So we are seeing this Atma which is having this mithya pada with a mithya upadhi karana sharira. That is called Pragna. What is mithya is satyam. Karana sharira is Atma. But basically, with the upadhi, if you take it, we will have to give a different name. If you don't include upadhi, it is Brahman. If you say mithya is satyam, then in that case, there is nothing to talk about. That's a turīya. So, we are talking about the self. We have to ultimately prove that I am whole. I am successful. That's it. This is called success when you say I am successful. Otherwise, there is no success. Anybody says in the world to you, it doesn't mean anything to you. Because when the people say that, well, in fact, when you get certain success, it's not that you are convinced about your success. In fact, you go to the world and try to take their approval. And when they say you are successful, then momentarily you feel you are successful. That shows you are, in your heart, you have not accepted that I am successful. The real success is when you understand that I have fulfilled the purpose in the life. I am successful. That is success. Otherwise, there is no success. That only is a spiritual goal. Success is a spiritual goal. It's not a material goal. It's not a material goal. Because any material goal which you achieve, it creates a more hunger ultimately. And it's a spiritual problem. To be successful is a spiritual problem. It's a wrong thing to say it has something to do with the material world. It's totally wrong. The real success is this. Partial success, which in Bhagavad Gita calls siddhi, success, is managing your own desires of a material world. If you are able to manage your desires, if they don't create a pressure in you, or if your unfulfilled desires are not able to create a sense of failure in you, you have managed the desires. That's it. That's the thing. It's ultimately whole thing comes. So we are discussing Atma and all that, but it is something related to the world, related to this, the concepts of success and all. And concepts of success, etc. has crossed the cultures. In this today's world, What is said success in America is also success in India. Means achieving certain things, like in terms of education, in terms of economy, etc., is success. That's it. But ultimately, whole thing should you should look upon. I'm Trutiya Pada, I have to talk, but I'm trying to relate it to the world, relate it to what we are really seeking in our life. We feel spiritual goal and material goals are very different. It's ultimately one goal, Parama Purushartha, Moksha. There is no other goal. So, therefore, what we do is sitting in one corner, in one room, and the people who are busy in this world, who is more practical and all that? You are most practical person because you are in the process of solving the issue. Yeah. People are really not solving the issue. That they realize, and by the time they realize, it's too late already. Better luck next time. The purpose of human life is to gain fulfillment in life. That's it. That fulfillment should bring a certain inner satisfaction within you. That's how it is a spiritual issue. No material comfort is able to give you that inner comfort. Yeah. No material comfort can give you the inner comfort. If that is the case, I would leave Vedanta first. You will leave later. I would leave first. I'm telling you. Why? Because I also don't like to sit here and do. Let us bring more material comfort. Go out in the world, bring all this so-called comfort, material comforts which will give me some inner comfort. There is no connection between material comfort and inner comfort. If one understands that, the person is called dispassionate person. He is a dispassionate person. Yeah. So please understand, the way I am talking to you and little clear if you accept me like that I am clear about the goal, what is the goal of life. So better give a thought on this, that there are no two paths, etc., material goals and material life and spiritual life and all that. There is nothing like that. One who is aviveki, for them only there are two paths. Right? For one who is viveki, for them only, ultimately the shreya alone is a path, not prayer. Prayer resolves into shreya. That's the thing. That's called Purushartha Viveka. Anyway, so here the Trutiya Pada of this Atma, well, which is Pragna, etc., that has been narrated in many words here. And that is, one is the Prajnana Ganaha. Other things we have already seen, Sushupta Sthanam, etc. And so Prajnana Ganaha also, as we have seen already. And so Prajnana Ganaha means a dense cloud, like a dense cloud. So Prajnanam means stands undivided actually. And that basically during waking and dream, this Prajnanam seems to be divided into Jnata, Agni and Jnanam, etc. That division is not there. In sleep all the three have merged into one, which was there in the Jagrata Avastha and Sapna Avastha. So Prajnana Gana, a dense cloud like it. And definitely it is Prajnana Ganaha. Turīya is Prajnanaha. Right? Turiyam or Prajnanam you can say, Prajnanam Brahma. So that's the difference. This is Prajnana Ganaha. Then Turīya is Prajnana. So that is how it is. Because we are talking about a avastha here. So Gani Bhutaha eva aviveka rupatvat. And therefore there is no viveka at all. Means Jnata, Gneya, and Jnanam, Karanam. All these three divisions are felt in which two avasthas? That division between the three is not felt in this third avastha. That way aviveka, that is number one. Or aviveka is that basically this, this prajnanam is, what is experienced in the deep sleep state is oneself alone. But due to ignorance, I do not know that I am Atma, Brahma, etc. That Atma is Brahman. Prajnanam is Brahman alone. Means, what is experience? This Pragna, Pragna is Brahman. And there is nothing other than oneself, it is non-dual Brahman alone. But due to that Ajnanam, it is not known in that avastha. And therefore that kind of aviveka also is there. Even though you experience yourself as Ananda also, but due to you also experience ajnanam along with that. And therefore definitely the viveka is not there, that what obtains in this the third state is really speaking I am experiencing myself which is whole, etc. That is not known. So aviveka rupatvat, you can take it that way. Or aviveka means the distinction between the three, like the jnata, gneya and jnanam, etc. That division also is not felt. That is also in third avastha. That is in that way you can take aviveka rupatvat. There is no viveka between this. There is no distinction between that. So waker consciousness, right? And Savishwa, dreamer consciousness is the Taijasa, and this dense consciousness, etc. So that is Prajnana Ganaha, dense consciousness. Well, that is Tritiya Pada. So no division. Actually, Ganaha is very difficult to translate. Ganaha means mass of consciousness and etc. etc. So all three have merged, of the waking or of a dream. The Triputi, the triad has merged into one, as though merged. All the three are there, but not felt at all. And so Bhashyakara says, Yatha ratrau naishena tamasa vibhajyamanam sarvam ganam iva tadvat prajnana ganaha iva eva shabdat na jatyantaram prajnana vatirekena asti iti arthaha. So, and the example is given by Bhashyakara is in a nightly darkness, while there is no moon and etc., there is no fire. Definitely, all the things are lying in the place, but covered by the darkness. So even though they are there, but you are not able to experience them. So that way we can say, well, everything has become as though one into that dense darkness, etc., nightly darkness. Same way here also, all the three are covered by this ajnana, ignorance, which is there it is a nightly darkness, here it is a ignorance. It's covered by ignorance. So even though all the three are there, but not felt at all. They have become estuvan, prajnana ganaha. And prajnana ganaha eva. So there is nothing other than consciousness. Nothing. In fact, they are consciousness. In a waking also, jnata, gneya, everything is consciousness alone. But that is not, that division remains in these two states. That division has not been felt in this state because covered by one thing, ajnana. So the darkness which is ignorance. So that is because of that, prajnana ganaha eva. So there is nothing other than consciousness. So sushupta also cannot be outside this consciousness, and here it is, so no other object available to experience, you can say. So jatyantaram, other than consciousness, another jati, another species, that is an inert object, etc. So no other object available for experience in a deep sleep state. That way evakara indicates that there is no other object which is experienced. So there is only prajnana. Prajnana, that's how only mass of consciousness. So anandamaya. Then that also we saw, manasaha, Bhashyakara says, manasaha vishaya vishayi akara spandana ayasa dukkha abhavat anandamayaha ananda prayaha na anandaha eva anatyantikatvat. So why it is called anandamayaha? Well, manasaha dukkha abhavat. When you don't experience dukkha, because there is an absence of dukkha, and dukkha arises when? So, vishaya vishayi akara spandana dukkha, ayasa dukkha, that dukkha is absent. What is that? So, dukkham here is in terms of effort, ayasa. That effort is what? Effort is nothing but the spandanam of the mind. So, what type of a spandanam? Well, what is the form of that spandanam of the mind? Well, it is vishaya vishayi akara. So, subject, object, etc. So, manasa spandanam means this motion, disturbance, a spinning of the mind in terms of subject, object. That is the only pravritti of the mind, to create a division, to set up a division called subject, object. Subject is aham vritti, object idam vritti. Swamiji, there is object outside. Why you say set a subject-object division by the mind? That's true, but there is object outside you are able to say only when the mind is there. There is otherwise, how will you say there is an object outside? So it's a setup by mind only. Otherwise you cannot say. When the mind is absent, that is what the thing is. Vishaya Vishayi Akara Spandana Abhavat. That's not there. So this mind has a lot of spandanam, lot of activity, and sometimes dukkha related to objects, sometimes dukkha related to the subject, the ego. And therefore, all the time, when mind does this spandanam, while this kind of activity, change, that's a pravritti of the mind to undergo a change in form of thoughts. That is, then thoughts pertaining to the subject or ahankara or object. And that created dukkham all the time. And tasid abhavat, basically in a deep sleep state. That is, since it is not there. Abhavat means since it is not there. It's a hetu. Well, we call it anandamaya. That's a hetu. Dukkha abhavat. Dukkha is in form of the ayasa, effort. Effort is nothing but this manasa spandanam. And that is in form of various modifications of the mind pertaining to the aham and idam. And that is what it is very clearly said. Vishaya Vishayi Akara, subject object. And therefore, dukkha becomes, in fact, in waking also the dukkha, that dukkha alone is an obstruction for ananda. You are ananda, then why you should experience ananda only in one state? Why you should not experience ananda in other states? Therefore, that is the issue. That's how people say, well, ananda is not an intrinsic to the Atma. If ananda is intrinsic, there will never be a time when ananda goes away from the self and dukkha comes. So, dukkha becomes an obstacle. I told you last time, dukkha is an obstacle to ananda. So, basically, you are ananda, then the activity of the mind in terms of all these various thoughts and dukkha related to that, either subject or object, becomes an obstacle. And that goes away. That goes away without fulfilling even desires, etc. Also, it goes away even by a simple listening of a joke, etc., or seeing something very beautiful, etc. It just goes away. So there is a clearance there, and then you are comfortable. You are just yourself in the moment of joy, etc. And therefore, you are ananda. But in these two states, that can occur. The dukkha can occur because of this spandanam. Okay, that is fine. Anandamaya means, it is, there is ananda in a deep sleep state because there is no dukkha. Fine. But why don't you take as why don't you write ananda alone? Why anandamaya? Bringing that mayat pratyaya, why unnecessarily? You say ananda. In deep sleep state, that dukkha bhava is there, spandanam is not there. So you say you only are there, non-dual yourself, there is no other vishaya. So say you are ananda, why you say anandamaya, etc.? Well, we have to say, even though there is a dukkha bhava and there is experience of ananda and no other object also, so we can say that object gave me ananda, etc. I alone is there and ananda is there, therefore ananda, you can definitely say that, but we won't say. Why? Why do you say anandamaya? Because even though vikara, let us take the one first thing is mayat means vikara. So vikara means a modification, change. That can occur only when the mind is present. Ananda vikara is present when the mind is present. Yeah, in terms of priya moda pramoda. Right? And therefore, darshanajam sukham, I told you already. Darshanajam sukham, sparshajam sukham, bhogajam sukham. Darshanajam sukham is priya. Then sparshajam sukham, modaha. And this bhogajam sukham, experiencing. That is pramodaha. Therefore, that all is there, priya moda pramoda. Well, that vikara is there when the mind is there. So mind is not there, therefore vikara is not there. That's how we say you remove mayat. Say ananda. No. still we will not be able to say Ananda. But then, well, because basically if the Swarupa is there, if the Swarupa is there, Ananda means Ananda Swarupa, then in that case when you wake up, it should not go away. And therefore, but that Ananda goes away. And therefore, definitely, we cannot take it as a Swarupa. Anatyantikatvat, Bhashakara said. So, Atyantikam means basically it is, gone forever. So, Anatyantikam means Anityam. Atyantikam means gone forever, Nityam. So, once you wake up, you get up, get out of the Ananda, and because Ajnanam is there, right? And it's a state. And also, when you get up, suppose you are Ananda there, Sarupa, then when you get up, you will say, I am by nature Ananda. But you don't say. You don't say, as you wake up, you try to run after the things which are quite promising to you. That shows that you are still searching Ananda elsewhere. And therefore, very clear that even though you are Ananda there, but there is Ajnanam, and therefore we cannot take it that way. And so we will have to say Anandamaya. So Anandamaya means Swarupa, we cannot say it. And third meaning only of Mayat is Prachurya. That is sufficient. Anandamaya is equal to Anandapraya. That's what Bhashkara said. So Anandapraya, na Anandahaiva, na Ananda Swarupaha. But why Prachuryam? Because the hetu abhavat. Since in waking in dream, when ayasa, spandanam, etc. is there is a dukkham which is not here. Therefore, there is a sukham. Pratibandha is not there. Dukkham is pratibandha. That is not there in deep sleep state. Pratibandha is there in a waking and dream, which arises due to the spandanam of the mind in terms of subject-object, and there are always issues pertaining to certain object which you experience, or the very experiencer. You will have, all being self-conscious, you definitely are aware of issues pertaining to the subject, ahankara. And that is why all these things will be there. So dukkham will be always there, which is not there. Therefore, we say Ananda Praya, Prachurya. Then Ananda book has been explained. Yatha loke nirayasa sthitaha sukhi Ananda book uchyate atyanta anayasa rupahi iyam sthitihi anena anubhuyate iti. There you can write iti hetoho Ananda book. Eshosya paramanandaha iti shrutehe. So Ananda book. So yatha loke nirayasa sthitaha. Bhashakara gives an example, yatha, just as in the world, loke, in nirayasa sthitaha, when a person is sitting, he is relaxed. Ayasam is not there, nirayasa sthitaha. When a person is seated relaxedly, some easy chair, lazy boy chair, etc., or you sit in your balcony in the evening, not doing anything, enjoys yourself naturally. So yatha loke nirayasa sthitaha sukhi. We say see how happy he is. Ananda book, he is enjoying himself. Ananda book iti uchyate. Anandam bhunkte iti Ananda book. So he is enjoying, he is sitting happily, doing nothing. Nirayasa sthitaha. Sukhi, we say that. Tatha, we have to supply it. Atyanta anayasa rupa hi iyam sthitihi. So this state, this deep sleep state, iyam sthitihi, this deep sleep state is atyanta anayasa rupa. Well, there is the sleep, in sleep state, there is totally effortless. In fact, your Pujya Swamiji says even snoring also is without effort. Even though you are snoring, others are bothering, but get bothered, but you don't get bothered at all. And that, playing that music for a long time without effort. So definitely sound sleep. So anyway, so atyanta anayasa rupa. Atyanta anayasa rupa hi sthiti. Anayasa, without effort. Well, totally effortless state is there. Same like that person who is sitting in a relaxed mode, enjoying himself without any effort, is enjoying himself. Same way here also. Anena anubhuyate, anena pragnena, or anena atmana. Anena atmana anubhuyate is experienced. Such a state is experienced by this prajna or atma, whatever you want to say. You say, or Swamiji, then what shall we, either of them you say. Sleeper consciousness, okay? Don't say by sleeper consciousness, because sleeper is consciousness. Any. So, anubhuyate iti ananda bhuk. This is how the state is. And then Bhashyakara quotes a mantra from the Swayam Jyotir Brahmana. The whole fourth chapter is a samvada, dialogue between Yajnavalkya and Janaka. And in that fourth chapter, the third Brahmana is a Swayam Jyoti Brahmana. And in that, this Bhashyakara quotes a 32nd mantra, part of that also. Eshaha asya parama ananda asya. Asya means sushuptasya. So basically, eshaha asya parama ananda. What is experienced by this deep sleep state is this paramananda, without any effort, etc. And then there is Ananda Mimamsa also, which is said like our in our Taittiriya. Here also, the 33rd mantra is Ananda Mimamsa, where very beautifully said all this. Athaye shatam manushyanam anandaha saekah pitrunam jitalokanam anandaha. Athaye shatam pitrunam jitalokanam anandaha saeka gandharvaloka anandaha. Athaye, etc., etc. So like that, our Taittiriya. So there is Ananda Mimamsa also. This Sushupta, the one who gets Ananda in a deep sleep state, is compared to a Ananda of a Jnani, knowing oneself as Ananda. One is a just experience, and another is the person has gained knowledge that I am Ananda. Here it is well definitely with the Ajnana. So therefore, what you experience in a deep sleep state is Ananda of yourself only, because there is a non-duality, there is nothing else other than that, no object, including space-time, which you can say, well, that is there and therefore there is Ananda. There is nothing like that. So Paramanandaha. So Sushuptasya Anandaha Paramanandaha. So that's a description there in those mantras about the Sushupta Purusha. And so very beautifully said it is, Esha asya paramagatihi, Esha asya parama sampat, Eshosya paramalokaha, Eshosya parama anandaha, Ekasyeva anandasya anyani bhutani matram upajivanti. Anyani bhutani. What anyani bhutani means, basically the ananda which obtains in a deep sleep state is the parama ananda, actually ananda of oneself alone. That's true. But we are not able to say that there is it is a ananda alone, because while the person is having ignorance and one gets up, doesn't say I am Ananda. Therefore, because there is ignorance, etc., is there, and therefore we have to apply, we have to say Anandamaya, etc., Prachurena Ananda, etc. And but the Ananda which obtains there is Ananda of oneself, of the Ananda, of Atma alone. And Anyani Bhutani, the other jivas, means Ajnanis, etc., Vivekis, well, they Anyani Bhutani Matram Upajivanti. Well, so all these jivas are sustaining themselves, these Ajnanis are sustaining themselves, or even the jivas in a waking state and dream state, whatever the Ananda they are getting, which is a fraction actually of this Ananda which is there in a deep sleep state. So that is Ananda alone, that is the source, and that's with that source alone one gets a matra, a fraction of the Ananda in a waking state by experiencing varieties of the Vishayas, various sense objects, etc. Or in a deep, in a dream state also. One enjoys various objects in a dream objects. That Ananda is just a fraction of the Ananda which obtains in a deep sleep state, because that's Ananda of oneself. Oneself is of the nature of Ananda. That is what has been said there. So that's how Bhashyakara quotes. Eshaha asya paramananda. Iti Shrutehi. The Vedantic Upanishad says that. And then Bhashyakara explains Cheto Mukha. He goes one by one, word of the mantra. So Prajnanaganaha, then Anandamayaha, Anandabhuk, Chetomukha, Pragnya, Trutiya Padaha. So now Chetomukha has been explained now. स्वप्नादि प्रतिबोध चेतः प्रति द्वारी भूतत्वात् चेतो मुखः बोध लक्षणं वा चेतो द्वारं मुखम अस्य स्वप्नादि आगमनं प्रति इति चेतो मुखः. So here Bhashakara gives two interpretations. Bodha lakshanam va. Va means athava. So which starts with athava is a one explanation of cheto mukha. And before that, Sapnadi Pratibodha Chetaha Prati Dvari Bhutatvat Chetomukha is a first interpretation, first explanation of the word of Chetomukha. So this Chetomukha and Pragna has been explained by Bhashyakara with two interpretations, two explanations. So Sapnadi Pratibodha Chetaha Prati. Chetaha means Antakarana. Sapnadi means Sapna and Jagrat. Sapnadi Pratibodha. So well, and this Sapnadi Pratibodha Cheta, the Antakarana which has an experience of a Sapna and Jagrat. So, means a waking experience and dream experience is called Cheta. Cheta. Sapnadi Pratibodha Cheta. Bhashyakara explains that. Cheta means Antakaranam. But Antakaranam which is Vishishtam. Vishishtam with what? Dream experiences in form of dream triputi or a waking experiences. So in form of waking triputi. So Sapnadi Pratibodha Chetaha Prati Dvari Bhutatvat. So the deep sleeper is a Dvari Bhutam. Deep sleeper is a corridor or the link which connects the waking experiences or connects a dream experiences. Means what? From the waking state, well, mind cannot, or let's say that the Vishwa cannot, let's take experience itself. So Vishwa cannot go to the dream state directly. Dvari Bhutam. This Pragna, the deep sleeper, becomes a link between these two. Vishwa and Tejasa. So from Swapna also one cannot go directly to the waking state. Antakarana cannot make a triputi, well, of a waking state and cannot have a waking experience. The Antakarana which is in the form of a dream experience, well, dream state, that cannot directly go to the waking state without the corridor called deep sleep state or deep sleeper. So deep sleeper, Pragna, well, is a corridor or a link between Vishwa and Tejasa. We can take it that way. So Vishwa through Pragna only will become Tejasa. Vishwa never becomes Tejasa directly. Through the medium of Pragna, Vishwa becomes Tejasa. Similarly, Tejasa also does not directly become Vishwa. He goes through Pragna alone to become Vishwa. And what is the logic? Well, when Vishwa wants to become Tejasa, he has to disidentify from Sthula Sharira naturally. Because the consciousness, Vishwa means what? One who has identified even with this physical body. So when Vishwa wants to become Tejasa, he has to disidentify from Sthula Sharira and re-identify with the Sukshma Sharira naturally. Since there is a disidentification, so like, the changing the dress, etc., and, identifying with the other, etc. So there is an intermediary state when there is a disidentification from one is over and re-identification is yet to come. So in between state. One Acharya explained that, which I don't feel like sharing, but, the person changes trousers, etc., the pants, etc. Then he have a towel in between and then, wear another pant, etc. So like that kind of a thing. But that context was little different while explaining this second chapter. Well, he explained that kind of a thing, that the jiva gives up this body, vasamsi jirinani yatha vihaya, gives up this body and assumes a new body. Then in between there is they call it as a preta sharira. So they assume a preta sharira kind of a thing. So it's not bhut preta, ghost, etc. But they call it as a preta sharira. So preta sharira is like a towel kind of a thing. And so one is given up, the other is not yet been identified with. Re-identification is not there. Same kind of thing you can understand. So Vishwa basically has identification with the physical body. And now if we want to decide, the identification happens when the Vishwa wants to go to the Tejasa, wants to become a Tejasa, then definitely he has to disidentify with the Sthula Sharira and re-identified with the subtle body, and only subtle body, and a particular part of the subtle body. That cannot happen like that. So in between, there is always a intermediary stage, which is nothing but this prajna, etc. A little small gap between these two. Then alone one identifies with another. So dreamer also withdraws from dream body during the withdrawal, and he becomes briefly prajna, and then becomes Vishwa. So in dream also there is a body for a dreamer who experiences dream world. So he has to disidentify there and identify with the physical body. Vishwa, he wants to become Vishwa, then definitely he cannot directly become like that. In between there is a gap. That is prajna. It's a corridor between these two. And Anandgiri gives another reason which our Swamiji discusses, a little more interesting and technical also. And that is, the reason is this Vishwa and Tejasa both are karya, right? Definitely. Sukshma and Sthula both. And so Vishwa is also product, Tejasa also is product. Both are karyam, Sthula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, etc. Sukshma Sharira, Vimani Chaitanyam, Tejasa. Sthula Sharira, Vimani Chaitanyam, you can say, is Vishwa. And Pragna is very Karana Sharira, Vimani. So, Anandgiri's argument is, one karyam cannot directly become another karyam. Right? There is an identification with the Sthula Sharira. So Tejasa is Vishwa is a karyam. Tejasa also is a karyam, because identification with the karyam only, Sthula and Sukshma. So one karyam cannot become another karyam. And therefore, the karya has to merge into karana, and then karana assumes another karyam, another form. So therefore, prajna becomes a mukham, because prajna means a karana sharira vimani chaitanyam. Karana sharira is the karanam ultimately for both. And therefore, Vishwa definitely becomes a prajna, which is karanam for the Vishwa. And then prajna assumes a prajna becomes a Tejasa. Or Tejasa, definitely is karyam, temporarily resolves into prajna, karanam, and then again becomes a Vishwa. So that is how. So basically this is how we have to take it. Swapna Jagrata Vishesh Anubhavayoho Mukham Dvaram, etc. That is the Dvaram. Pragna is a Dvaram for this, a corridor for this. And so, it is Cheto Mukha is a Chetasaha Mukham, Cheto Mukha. Chetasaha Mukha, Chetasaha Mukham Asya. That is Saha Cheto Mukha. This basically, or let's Chetasaha Mukham, Cheto Mukham. That is the thing. Only we have to take it. So Chetasaha Mukham. Like Manonashaha. Manasaha Nashaha, Manonashaha. Chetasaha Mukham. So for Chetasaha means for this both, Vishwa and Tejasa. For both of them, which is called Chetaha, for that this is Mukham. Pragna becomes a Mukham, corridor. So Cheto Mukham. This is interpretation. Anyway, I have a little doubt about it, so keep it in this one, because if Cheto Mukha we have to say, it should be taken as a Bahuri, but our Swamiji has has interpreted it as a Chetasaha mukham cheto mukham. Instead it is cheto mukha. Therefore I have a little doubt. I will verify and let you know. So anyway, this is one first interpretation. And I told you there is a second interpretation. Bhashyakara himself says, Bodha lakshanam chetaha dvaram. Bodha lakshanam chetaha dvaram mukham. Mukham is again dvaram. But chetaha means chaitanyam, bodha lakshanam, which is characterized by bodha. Bodha lakshanam, which is characterized, defined by bodha, chaitanyam. That is called cheto mukha. So the consciousness is a dvaram, becomes a means for what? Swapnadi agamanam prati. So, of course, this second interpretation, other acharyas say the first interpretation is better, what we saw. But anyway, since Bhashyakara says that, we will see that. But they say, acharyas say that the second interpretation compared to that, the first interpretation is better. So here, anyway, so Chetaha is, there it was, of course, Chaitanyam, but in form of Vishwa and Tejas. Right? We saw that. Antakaranam, which is in the waking state and dream state. That is, we can say Vishwa and Tejas. So Chetaha is equal to Vishwa and Tejas, or you can say even Vishesha Jnana. And here Chetaha means Sarupa Jnana, Bodha. And that Sarupa Jnanam is a Mukham, gateway, and and so the that is the gate for this Pragna. Means Pragna, this sleeper conscious, that Pragna has got this consciousness as the means to come to what? To come to Vishwa and Tejasa, Swapnadi Agamanam Prati, Swapna Jagrat Prati Agamanam. So the Pragna arrives, becomes Vishwa or Tejasa. Well, for that, what he uses? The consciousness, which is his own nature. So Pragna uses as the means, the consciousness is the means to become Vishwa and Tejasa. Why? What is this, Swami? Because their experiences are happening. In a waking and dream state, very particular experiences are happening. And for any experience to happen, well, what is required is a consciousness. And therefore, the Prajna which has a consciousness, so Prajna uses as though consciousness as the means to become Vishwa and Tejasa. Therefore, that this consciousness as though is a mukham, gateway, means, you can say, well, to become Vishwa and Tejasa. Therefore, it is Cheto Mukha. Prajna is called Cheto Mukha. Because any Vishesha Jnanam, definitely it requires consciousness. Then only it is a experience or a cognition, whatever you say. So a Gata Vritti will, with the consciousness, becomes what consciousness, and Pata Vritti, etc. So all this. Either it is of a dream object or of a waking object. We know all this. And so, Bodha Lakshanam Va, Chetaha Dvaram. Dvaram, Mukham means Dvaram. So, Chetaha Dvaram, Asya. So, this is a Bahuri here. Chetaha Mukham Asya Saha Cheto Mukha. That this is very clear. Regarding Sashtitat Purusha, I will have to little check and let you know. Okay. So, this is also over. So you can see now in the mantra, most of the words have been explained. Yatra suptaha na kanchana kamam kamayate na kanchana supnam pashyati tat sushuptam. Sushupta sthana, that was explained. Eki bhutaha, has to become one, everything. Prajnanaganaha eva. Anandamaya, he Ananda book. Indeed, Ananda book, he experiences Ananda alone. Cheto mukha. Now last word is Pragna. Then that is Tritiya Pada. So now Prajna also has been explained in a two sense by Bhashyakara. And there is a third sense also, which because Prajna word has come even in the Tattvabodha, etc. Also in Vedanta also it comes. Wherever they talk about the three states of experience, naturally they will have to talk about this experiencer of the different experiencer of the three states. And so Vishwa, Tejas and Prajna. So in Tattvabodha, etc., well, this Prajna has been explained in one way. In Mandukya, it has been explained by Bhashyakara in two more senses, the word Prajna. and we're quite different. And the reason for difference is a little logic in that. So, in Pragna Avastha, what happens? In a deep sleep state, what happens? In sushupti, Jiva and Ishvara, the difference get resolved, cannot be experienced. That's how we say undifferentiated state, right? Undifferentiated state means you cannot see the difference between Vyashti and Samashti. That's what everyone's experience is. What we experience in a waking state, like myself, this individual, Vyashti, and the world, which is Samashti, that division is very clear. In a dream also it is clear. The dreamer is there with a dream body, and then there is a dream world. There also division is very clear, and the division is felt so clearly that you take the dreamer takes the dream object or dream tiger different from himself and gets literally frightened also and run around here. So that all is very clear that Vyashti Samashti division is very much felt, experienced in both the states. That division you don't experience in a deep sleep state, Vyashti Samashti division. So Vyashti Samashti has to become one. And we cannot say Samashti resolves into Vyashti naturally. So Vyashti definitely merges into Samashti. The Jiva as though merges into Ishvara. We cannot say Ishvara is resolved. So Jiva has resolved. Ultimately, Karanam for the Jiva is Ishvara. Because all this Jiva means what? The consciousness obtained in the body, that is Jiva. There is no other Jiva. Obtained in body means body should be created. Either a subtle body or a this body, our subtle gross body, which is we experience in a dream state and in a waking state. So basically, the cause of the Jiva is Ishvara. That way. Even though Vidya, Karana Sharira is Anadi, so consciousness associated with this Karana Sharira, which is Anadi, so we call Jiva is Anadi, etc., that is fine. But ultimately, this comes, the Sukshma and Sthula have been given by Ishvara. Because the material for Sukshma and Sthula are all the Mahabhutas, etc., that is the part of the Upadhi of Ishvara, that is Maya. Anyway, so Ishvara is a cause. So in a deep sleep state, Jiva and Ishvara resolves as though Vyashti Samashti resolve, but we should say Jiva resolves into Ishvara. Karya resolves into Karana, etc. So that way, we can, so now that undifferentiated state, the deep sleep state, can be looked upon from a Jiva standpoint or can be looked upon from Ishvara standpoint. So either you can focus on resolved Jiva or you can focus on Ishvara, not resolved Ishvara. What is there is Ishvara, that's it. So both are there. That's how even say in Pralaya also Ishvara is there, we say. So none but Swamiji, Ishvara has also gone to sleep. There is Yoga Nidra. Ishvara cannot sleep like us. Because there is, immediately, if it is a deep sleep state like us, then Ishvara also has to say, well, I don't know anything. Na kinchid avedisham. I do not know anything. I did not know anything. And when I woke up, I came to know that while during sleep, I did not know anything. That cannot be with the Ishvara. Okay? And therefore, what we experience as a Karana Sharira in a deep sleep state, etc., which is not there as a Upadhi of the Ishvara. Anyway, so either it can be, deep sleep state can be looked upon from either of the angle, from a Jiva's angle, from Ishvara's angle. And Tattvabodha, etc., it has been explained, this Pragna word has been explained from the standpoint of a Jiva. The deep sleeper, what obtains in deep sleep state is Pragna, the Jiva. Tattvabodha and Vedansara also. Means what? Then how will you derive Pragna? Prakarshena Agnya or Prayana Agnya. Well, he is more or less ignorant. He is more or less ignorant. So, well, that's called Prayana Agnya. So, little sattva is there, because of which he just a little knowledge of or experience is there. Experience of a Ananda and experience of a ignorance, etc., is there. So that much sattva is there. That's how called Malina Sattva Avastha also. So sattva is there, but well, predominantly there is a tamoguna, and rajoguna is totally absent. Rajoguna, the activity, etc., is totally absent. So sattva, which is which is contaminated with the tamoguna as a predominant factor. So Malin Sattva Avastha, we can even call Malina Sattva Upadhi. Vidyaranya Swami defines this Jiva as a Malina Sattva Upadhi, Karana Sharira. Vishuddha Sattva means a Maya Upadhi, that is Ishvara. Because of that only he is a Sarvajna, we are Agnya, etc. Prajna Agnya. We are more or less ignorant due to this Malina Sattva. Vishuddha Sattva means we also become Sattva goes, Sattva Sanjayate Jnanam. And therefore Sattva is always goes with the knowledge. And therefore more Sattva, more knowledge. So Malina Sattva, well, definitely means, definitely we are always, the ignorance itself is an obstacle against this knowledge. So, this is one interpretation. As a Jiva, the Pragna has been explained in Tattvabodha and Vedansara, Prakarshena Agnya. Prajna Agnya. And it is, this is one interpretation. And here, in the interpretation of Prajna in Mandukya by Bhashyakara, is a little different. That we will see. What it says, Bhashyakara says, Bhuta Bhavishyat Jnatrutvam Sarva Vishaya Jnatrutvam Asya Eva Iti Prajna. Sushuptopi hi Bhutapurvagatya Prajna Uchyate. This is one interpretation, combining these two sentences. Athava, or second interpretation. Prajnapti matram asya asadharanam rupam iti prajna. Itarayoho vishishtam api vijnanamasti soyam prajna trutiya pada. So, Mandukya takes a standpoint of a Ishvara. I told you in deep sleep state, Vyashti Samashti merger is there, and you can look from the standpoint of a Jiva, Vyashti, because the differences are not there. So either way you can take, or you can look upon from the standpoint of Samashti Ishvara. So here it has been taken from the standpoint of Ishvara. So what it says, first is Bhuta Bhavishyat Jnatrutvam Sarva Vishaya Jnatrutvam Asya Eva Iti Prajna. So, Bhuta Bhavishyat Jnatrutvam. So Prajna has got the capacity to know all past and future. Ishvara. How do you say that? In the deep sleep state, what is there is this Ishvara which is Sarvajna, etc. Sarva Vishaya Jnatrutvam. Sarva Vishaya Jnatrutvam Asya. Ishvarasya, naturally. So Sarva Vishaya Jnatrutvam, that has been explained by Bhashyakara as a Bhuta Bhavishyat Jnatrutvam. Bhuta Bhavishyat Jnatrutvam. Jiva, all the Jivas have resolved into now Ishvara in the deep sleep state. So Jivas were having the knowledge of the past. Every Jiva, I have a knowledge of my past. Past means in the current past, whatever. And little bit knowledge of a bhavishya, of future also. Pujya Swamiji gives an example that, everyone is an astrologer. How? Especially in our courses, there used to be 11:30 to 12:30 or 11:15 to 12:15 class. Then there is a lunch. Now, we people sitting in that class, right, and studying, all were astrologers, because this much bhavishya, they also know what, that after this we are going to have a lunch. So this much knowledge of bhavishya will be always there with us, or little bit what I am going to do today, etc. So little bit knowledge of bhavishya is there. Well, it turns out to be, may not be true, but you can definitely have some knowledge. And both, so knowledge of the past. Every Jiva has. And all these Jivas have resolved with their knowledge of the past and future into Ishvara. And therefore, Bhuta Bhavishyat Jnatrutvam. The Jiva who is a Jnata, Jnatrutvam is a knowerhood. Means Jiva who is a Jnata, knower of this Bhutam and Bhavishyam, right? That Jiva all these knowers have resolved in a deep sleep state into Ishvara. Therefore, Ishvara is what? Sarva Vishaya Jnatrutvam. Therefore, Ishvara becomes a estu. This is the way he explains. Sarva Vishaya Jnatrutvam. So, well, definitely, the Ishvara being a Karana, well, definitely, all the minds, Jiva, will resolve into this Ishvara, and therefore, well, definitely, Sarva Vishaya Jnatrutvam, the capacity to know all the things of the creation of all the Jivas will be with this Pragna. Pragna means basically he is going to say Prakarshena Jnaha. So, who is all knowledge, who is knowing everything, whatever is there in the minds of various jivas of knowledge of the past and future, etc. All that has all is there with this Ishvara. So definitely when this Triputi resolves, this is how it has been explained here, Sarva Vishaya Jnatrutvam. We'll see that the time is over. And that there is another interpretation also, which is from the standpoint of a Swarupa, etc. We'll see. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.